Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar on Nature First, a unified front for environmental stewardship and sustainable industry. This event is organized by the Economic Times. There was business vertical as part of its new initiative titled Sustainability in Action. ETB2B, part of Times Internet, is a B2B media and community platform focused on various industries and function. It operates specialized media portals like etauto.com, ET Manufacturing and others covering news, analysis, opinion within their respective sector. I hope you will enjoy today's conversation. We have our distinguished guest with me who will highlight some of the important issues that we are trying to look at today. I will introduce each one of them before getting into the line of questions that I have for each one of them. Starting from Dr. Vibha Dhawan, she is the Director General of the Energy and Resources Institute. Dr. Vibha Dhawan's long association with TERI dates back to 1985. During 2005 and 2007, she led TERI School of Advanced Studies in the capacity of a Vice Chancellor. She is a fellow at the National Academy of Sciences and is currently also serving as an adjunct professor at Council General South Asia Partnership, Michigan State University. Being driven by a deep academic and research interest, Dr. Dhawan has authored 6 books and over 50 publications, which have added immense value to the scientific research. Dr. Dhawan's thought leadership is known to everyone and her distinguished presence is really welcome today. Welcome, Dr. Dhawan.
Thank you so much.
Next with us is Mr. Anupam Badola, who is the Deputy CSO of Dalmia Cement Bharat Limited. Dr. Badola is a seasoned sustainability professional with over 18 years of diverse experience spanning corporate sustainability, GHG inventory, new technology assessments, decarbonization roadmaps, carbon markets and environmental management. We are really happy to have you here, Anupam. Third, I'll introduce our third speaker, Mr. Ashish Chaturvedi. He is Head of Action for Climate and Environment, UNDP India. Ashish has been working on the topics of environment, climate change and circular economy in India for over 18 years. His core experience and expertise is in community-based adaptation, waste management, sustainable consumption and production, and environmental policy. Prior to UNDP, he's worked with research institutions and consultancy, most recently as the Director of Climate Change and Circular Economy with GIZ, the agency responsible for implementing Indo-German technical cooperation. Welcome, Ashish. We are really glad to have you, all three of you here. A little bit about myself. I am Divya Sharma. I am Executive Director of Climate Group in India. Climate Group is a not-for-profit based out of London, and I look after our India operations. We work across 4 sectors: industry, transport, energy and food. And through our business campaigns and subnational coalition, we work with businesses and corporates to accelerate climate action. With that, I would really like to jump into the question round, and I would, if I may, start an opening question for all three of you, and I'll let the lady in the house speak first. Our first question would be, what is the biggest unlock for India to embed sustainability into its industrial growth story? What are your viewpoints? What your experience, Vibhaji?
See, India, I'll say it's a very unique country at the moment, because unlike many other countries, we are on the trajectory of fast growth. And also in terms of human resource, we talk of large population of Indians, the young population that's with us. That's a strength. If we channelize it properly, it's the biggest strength. And that is where the country is moving. Let's look at the government plans under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister. We are talking about made in India. We are talking about that India is a country of innovators. Let's look at startups, the number of startups which is increasing. Let's look at the education sector. You go to any part of the country and you will find excellent universities emerging over there. So, essentially what we are trying to, or not trying, we will achieve India as a country which can show the way to the world. We are innovators. Let's look at the global level. Let's look at what is, we are hardworking. We have young population. Here is the market. So, therefore, whatever we produce, largely it will be consumed within the country. Now, let's look back. What was the limiting factor? Because it's not something which we have discovered today in terms of our innovating nature. Look at Nalanda. Look at who invented zero. So, that way, what in a way stopped us in between somewhere was the high cost of energy. And 1974, that particular shock, energy shock, and otherwise, because what happened, we became non-competitive. Every drop of fossil fuel was to be imported to the country. And with the result, our production cost became little higher. It was energy excess, especially in our rural parts of the country. That was a big problem. And therefore, there was within the country also, there was rural-urban divide. And internationally, as I said, we were non-competitive. Now, how we are graduating or what's happening to the world, we all have realized that fossil fuels, they are good. They give us very high calorific value when we burn them, and they are available practically for free for the countries who own it or who have these oil wells. So, therefore, the cost of fossil fuel basically is the extraction cost, and those countries have made billions and billions. And for us, since we are importing, it becomes a huge burden on the government. Now, what do we have today? Because renewable energy, we are talking for over 50-60 years that we started talking about fuel cells, we are talking about solar, hydro, but then the cost of that energy was comparatively higher, because all the time comparison is with the fossil fuels. Today the advantage is, because as we move, or as the innovators, they have invented things, the cost of solar energy had become very cheap even compared to the fossil fuel based energy generation. We are still stuck in terms of storage, but during the hours when solar energy is available, it's the cheapest form of energy. We are looking at biofuels, when today we are talking of everything fast food and everything we want to do yesterday and not today kind of a scenario. So, there we are also looking at, because even fossil fuels are product of photosynthesis. So, why not to use this bioresource to generate biofuel? So, that is what we are moving in. So, therefore, as a country, I will put it this way, that we have a huge potential, and since we are developing, we have the opportunity to show to the world that you can develop in a green way, your development can be green. So, that is what will distinguish us from rest of the world as well.
Thank you, Vibha ji. That was very insightful. I'll go to Anupam Nen. You have a vast experience of working with industries and within industries. So, what are your outlook about the same?
Yeah, thank you, Divya. And I would like to thank Times Group for this dialogue. Today is the World Nature Conservation Day. So, my best wishes for the conservation of the nature to everyone. As far as India's growth story is concerned, as Dr. Dhawan has mentioned, I think we have immense potential of growth, and going forward we will see consumption patterns which will be multifold. I will give you an example of construction sector itself. So, as per the estimates, nearly 70% of India's infrastructure is yet to build. Basically, it has to change to modern infrastructure. So, we are entering into a phase of growth where a lot of industrial output, and it will grow multifold. And in that process, the biggest opportunity for the industries, for the economy, is that how we create it with minimum input from the resources. And this is already unlocking a lot of opportunities for the industry. For example, in our sector, in the cement sector, almost 40%, more than 40% of the raw material that comes for cement production for us is basically from the waste origin. So it is saving nature, like limestone is saved, and similarly various other industries are also taking their steps towards this resource conservation, which is ultimately unlocking the potential of India. And as government has taken the step of becoming net zero by 2070, then naturally there are various other levers which are coming into picture, where waste will be seen as a resource. And this is one of the most critical aspect, probably, because as economy grows, the waste will also start increasing, whether it is household waste, whether it is industrial waste, whether it is various other waste, they will start growing. And then there is, in the economy, there has to be enough absorption, enough potential to absorb that waste and also generate value out of it. So I think this is one of the most important aspects going forward in terms of industrial growth story.
Thank you for bringing the question around circularity and waste,
Yes.
and I think it binds very well with your experience, Ashish, but I'll let you, decide what you want to speak about as a beginning of our conversation today.
No, thanks very much. Thanks very much for having me here. I think the earlier speakers have already referred to it. The entire model of industrialization beginning 150 years ago was fed by fossil fuels, did not really care about material footprints very much. And your question about sort of how do you unlock sort of potential, I think given the kind of circumstances we are in right now, with of course the occasion of the World Nature Conservation Day, the idea that we have lots of challenges to the environment and to nature. India is in a very unique place. It's still growing, and we still have to put millions out of poverty still. So therefore we need to continue growing. And if you need to continue growing, you can't really adopt the models that the industrial societies had adopted when the Industrial Revolution began. So India is probably going to be one of the first countries following China, but India is still very unique in that sense, that it will have to decarbonize and dematerialize while overcoming sort of the growth deficit that we have currently. And therefore it's a great opportunity as well. When you actually start thinking about decarbonizing our industry, there are several opportunities. Look at the expansion in the renewable energy sector in this country. Of course, it's not going to solve all industrial needs for energy, but it can, and that's why we're trying to electrify as much as possible. So try to electrify as much as possible, including whatever industrial processes can be electrified, and then green the grid, right? The other point is about dematerializing or reducing the material footprint of industry. I think UNDP is doing a lot with several actors in the government on looking at how to close the material cycles. On plastics, on all kinds of alternative fuels, on electronics, how do you close the loop on electronics, on closing the loop now on issues around solar panels as well. Right. Because I think it's almost sort of a law that you first sort of find an innovation and then you struggle with dealing with the environmental impact. Plastics is one fine example, but there are several others. And even now, when we're actually expanding our renewable energy footprint, how are we thinking about closing material cycles there? So I think there are sort of two broad sort of lines. One, sort of try to decarbonize industry at the earliest, which is both a great opportunity for our energy sector. It would also allow us to meet our, several international and domestic commitments. At the same time, looking at the material footprint, which will allow us to sort of work very well with nature as well, because most of these inputs, material inputs, are actually being drawn out of nature.
Thank you so much. That's a great start of our webinar today. I have a couple of questions for each one of you, because I know you come with your own experience and expertise, and we want to explore more and more in the limited time that we have. So I'll start with Vibha ji. TERI has been at the forefront of sustainable innovation. What emerging eco-technologies and decarbonization strategies are showing the most promise for India's heavy industries?
Yeah, see, India is a unique country, and many a times I say that if we can find solutions to all the problems that this country has, we'll find problems to all the globe, the planet, because we are so unique. Our ecosystems are so unique. the paying capacity, everything is so different. Now coming to, like, this is one thing which I should say is engraved in the DNA of every Indian, and that is sustainability. It is that maybe we lost somewhere our path in between, but we are back to it, and now it's the world which talks about circularity. The other thing is, when we talk of heavy industries, let's also look into what is it. There are sectors which very easily, and most of the, like, while India had said that we will go net zero by 2070, most of the industries are saying that they would like to be net zero by 2050. And therefore, they are trying to, like, depending on what kind of calorific needs, what is the heating requirement, there are going to be various alternatives. The most difficult sectors are cement and steel, because there the temperature requirements are very high. If you look at many other industries, solar will do wonderfully. But then if we look at these sectors which are difficult to abate sectors, there perhaps it's going to be hydrogen in years to come. And of course, government has launched hydrogen mission, which is, I should say, a very bold step, because when we announced that, we were at the stage that it was a little above proof of concept stage. We are still struggling because capex itself is very expensive, and therefore the production cost becomes on the higher side. Yeah. But then it is always economies of scale, and innovations will only come once you have tested it. I have to have LCA. Which part is costing me the most? So we are talking of whether water will remain the source thereafter, or it will be solar. Will the color remain green? Because we have gone for the best possible technology, and that is the green hydrogen production, so that we don't have problems tomorrow. Let's also look at, because one question asked is, will we have water, so, pure water, which is required today for deionization. So will we first have desalination? Will we have something else rather than, because you are breaking the molecule? So will you all the time, will you require energy, or is there a possibility that microbes can do this job? So therefore, those innovations will come. So the very first stage is you are able to produce, you are able to create market, you are solving other problems like storage, transportation, dispensation, and so on. So the ecosystem is being developed for hydrogen. But not to say, because depending on the location, somewhere hydro will have more potential, somewhere wind will, because we are so diverse. So therefore, depending on the need of that industry as well as where you are located, we will be using mix of various renewable sources. But definitely electrification is one which is going to take us long, but how we electrify, it is not shifting to coal based or fossil fuel based and thus polluting some other place. It is more of that how we are generating that electricity, and whether it is for cooking needs, whether it is for heavy industries. So that's how we'll use different renewable sources.
Thank you, Vibha ji. Anupam, Dalmia Cement has been recognized as the early leaders in decarbonization. You are part of our global campaigns as well, Climate Group's campaign, and there is so much you've been doing on sustainability since last many years. Which are the key policy levers or regulatory signals that have helped shape your long-term sustainability strategy?
So first of all, I would like to thank you for acknowledging our leadership in the sustainability and decarbonization. We are 49.5 million ton cement company, and we have one of the lowest carbon footprints globally in the cement sector. And it is a result of almost a decade long journey that we took in 2015, when we for the first time took a decarbonization target that we will reduce our carbon footprint to a certain extent. And we became a member of RE100, EP100, EV100. In fact, we are the first triple joiner globally of campaigns of Climate Group, and these campaigns also help us to basically shape the strategy. But at the same time, I would like to highlight that voluntarily, since we had taken those target, and there was a direct motivation from the top management itself that we could think big, and we could also communicate big, in the sense that later on in 2018 we also highlighted our aspirational roadmap to become carbon negative by 2040. Now in that roadmap we very clearly identified like which are the technological levers which are existing, which we can consider existing, and then accelerate on those technological levers. And then we also highlighted some nascent levers also, which may not be existing at this moment, but at later stage they will be available, but let us start working on those nascent levers also. And because of these this early vision, we were able to take those actions. So whether it is renewable energy deployment, we have deployed renewable energy through our captive projects within our boundary, plant boundary, wherever space was available. We deployed the ground mounted solar technology. We also deployed waste heat recovery plants, and various other energy efficiency measures was also taken. Similarly, on the waste, as I was mentioning, circular economy levers, this was one of the top priority that we have taken. And while we had developed those aspirational roadmap, one of the key criteria for the success was that we somehow brought it in the core business KPIs. It's not like that somewhere somebody is talking about carbon footprint reduction, and then that carbon footprint reduction may not be understood at at shop floor level, at lower level, in the middle management, junior management, at workers level. So therefore we integrated them in the core business KPIs. So particularly whether it is improvement of clinker factor, whether it is improvement of circular economy levers, renewable energy generation per ton of clinker produced, renewable energy used per ton of cement produced. So those are some kind of levers which we created, and we made them like performance kind of a levers. And we also created a business philosophy which is clean and green is profitable and sustainable. So it directly brings decarbonization into profitability perspective rather than in a cost perspective. So earlier, like if somebody is thinking that taking sustainable actions, taking action on sustainability will add cost or will bring some additional cost, this narrative, this basically vision directly changes it into different domain, that now if I take certain actions, it will basically add to my profitability, it will also add to sustainability. And wherever we find this co-benefit approach in the projects, in the ideas, in the concept, so management also very quickly gave green signal to such projects. And then whether it is renewable energy, whether it is waste heat recovery, whether it is circular economy, we kept on deploying those activities. And impact is such that within that decadal time period, our low carbon product portfolio increased from 40% to nearly 87%. Our circular economy drive, basically clinker factor improvement, has almost more than 30% we have done. Similarly, renewable energy deployment, from mere 7% we reached, exit figures are almost 40% of FY 25. And within few years we may reach near 60%. So these are the kind of levers which we deployed. Regulatory at this moment, I think since a lot of actions have been taken on the voluntary side, but at the same time regulatory aspects are also developing. But since voluntary actions were already happened at our level, so we are well prepared for new regulatory sides also. For example, carbon credit trading scheme is now coming in India. So because we had taken actions on renewable energy and so many other aspects, so we would be able to do well in that carbon credit trading scheme. Similarly, various other regulatory aspects are emerging. This carbon neutral by 2070, that is another target that is taken by Government of India. But since our target is much before that, our aspirational roadmap is much before that, which is by 2040. So we are working constantly towards that direction. The first interim target was 457 kg for 2025 as per our inspirational roadmap. And I am happy to tell you that last year our reasonable assurance has happened already. And as per that reasonable assurance, our number is 456 kg. So we have met that target also. And every year we are publishing those for the stakeholder information as well.
Thank you, Anupam. And Ashish, you would agree that for India to take the 2070 or achieve the 2070 net zero target, industries will have to take the ambition, and as Anupam was just saying, that an ambition which is much earlier than the 2070 ambition, because decarbonization will happen at the level of the industries. And it's also important because a lot of industrial activities will happen, as you were just telling us about it, because that is what the development pathways looks like for us. You've been working with Indian businesses to create scalable, financially viable solutions for resource conservation and green growth. What is your experience, and what do you think are the challenges or enablers for industry action?
See, so we were discussing this earlier as well. The private sector is going to be a critical actor in the India growth story. Significant amount of capital formation, significant contribution to gross value add comes from the private sector. The private sector is part of the problem for the environment as well. We must acknowledge that. A significant amount of material footprint and carbon dioxide emissions come from activities of the industries and private sector, and therefore they have to be a part of the solution as well. We can't really design these solutions because they're solutions for them, but also for the larger population, the entire country, the ambition that we want to go net zero by 2070, and good to hear the Dalmia commitment to go a lot faster. So I'll give you a couple of examples of how we are working with industry. So let me start with this example of cooling. So we work very closely with the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change on the India Cooling Action Plan and India's commitments to the Montreal Protocol. Now, you know that cooling demand is going to rise exponentially in the next by 2050. There will be 1.1 billion more air conditioning sets that will be installed in this country. Just imagine the kind of energy requirement that comes from it. Of course, we are electrifying, we are trying to green the grid, but the emissions are not going to disappear. So what we are doing very closely with the private sector and several from the small and medium enterprises to the largest companies which are active in this country to develop low global warming potential refrigerants. So there is massive amount of innovation happening in this country. We are solving the problem for India, but it's also for the rest of the world. You're trying to reduce the emissions domestically, but also trying to develop solutions of low global warming potential refrigerants in this country. And with that, we're working with the entire supply chain of the cooling industry as well. So down from large companies, small and medium enterprises, but also technicians who are going to our homes to repair those refrigerators as well as air conditioners. In fact, just last year at the COP, we organized a big event at the India Pavilion jointly with the Government of India, where the solutions from India were showcased to the rest of the world. Great amount of interest on what was happening in India. And in fact, as far as India is concerned and the Montreal Protocol targets, India has actually achieved most of its targets well in advance as compared to other countries. So, and its Montreal Protocol is one of the most successful global treaties that we have. So I think that's one example. The other one is the work that we are doing on plastics. So huge amount of waste generation happening. We have roughly 15 million tons of plastics which is generated annually in this country. And a large part of the problem is emanating from our own lifestyles of engaging, eating a lot of packaged foods, but also industrial supply chains where more and more plastics is currently being used. So the way we worked on this was that, of course, we worked on the government has its compliance requirements. So for instance, there is an extended producer responsibility mandate on most packaging products. So we worked very closely with some companies to develop, how can they comply to the rules, but also do it in a socially inclusive way by mainstreaming some of the informal actors which are collecting waste from cities. So we worked in 30 cities to develop material recovery facilities jointly with the informal sector, funded by the private sector. So large corporates funding these material recovery facilities, and some of these now have been handed over to municipalities where SHGs of women are actually operating them in fairly engaged and seamless ways. We've worked with the same private sector companies to enhance the social protection of waste pickers, because the Government of India has a massive program on enhancing the social protection of waste pickers called Namaste, but it's done with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So the environmental problem being solved in cities with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment to enhance the social protection of the most vulnerable. So I think this is our sort of way of engaging with scale, with issues around working with multiple stakeholders, but also tackling critical problems, the energy problem and the material problem.
Thank you for giving that solution-oriented response to that question. I really like the interconnectedness that you have created in this response, which is really very important, particularly for a country like India. I'm going to Dr. Vibha Dhawan again. Businesses can take a lot of ambitious action, and they are capable of doing that. We've seen in TERI, and I've also worked in TERI for several years. What, in your opinion, should businesses benchmark themselves against to become environmental performance leaders, and what role can science-based guidance play in this process? TERI has been a pioneer in this area. What would you like to say about that?
Sure. Thank you so much for acknowledging TERI, and definitely you are also one of us. Now, TERI, as you know, we were established in 1974, so we are a 51-year-old organization, basically looking for sustainable solutions. And when we were established, that was the objective. We were set up by Tatas, and our name was Tata Energy Research Institute. And in 51 years back, I should say there were very few philanthropic organizations. And for them to set up a not-for-profit research organization, autonomous, so we were not working for Tata Group of companies, that was something great. And that's where it is that all through we are looking at sustainability. Now, coming to that, sustainability, even for businesses, it will only make sense, as Anup also mentioned, that green doesn't mean expensive. It's a mindset. And that is where ESG by reporting has also come into play. So that you look back, you look into the mirror, what am I doing? Are those practices the best ones? Now, having said that, businesses will only adopt them when it sustains them. It cannot be at the cost of my losing money. I am not a charity organization, let me be very clear. So therefore, the research academia has to provide them with solutions. And somewhere it is that they also need to connect, because there are going to be many technologies. I'll say the low hanging fruits have already been plucked, and now it's the time that we have to invest in research. Let's also realize that whether it is financial resource or human resource, that's limited. So there is need to do crowdfunding to find solutions for difficult problems. And in that direction, TERI has set up Institute on Energy Transition. And we are looking at multi-country, multi-partner, so it's not restricted to government. Yes, government is funding it. Ministry of Power has already set up one center of excellence, and other departments will also set up center of excellences. So the very first step is that energy efficiency. Whatever energy I'm using today, how efficient I can be. How can I transit? What are the opportunities available? If opportunities are not available, how do I create them? And somewhere, because earlier we used to say, let's import the technology. Today, it is not importing the technology. Today, it is co-development of technology. India is a country of small and medium enterprises. Even the large company, large corporate is also dependent somewhere on the parts which are coming from small and medium enterprises. So unless and until they go green, Scope 2, Scope 3 emissions, we should be conscious of those as well. Another thing is, let's also look at, and Anup mentioned about that 70% of the infrastructure is yet to be built. And then Ashish mentioned about the huge requirement for cooling. Let's take it for granted that we are not going to go back to the Stone Age. We have to fulfill the aspirations of people. How do we fulfill them? By going green? That is the question. And that is where even buildings, building materials, they all are going to play a crucial role. TERI has set up GREHA, which is accreditation, and building group is working in terms of that what kind of building material should be used where, what kind of insulation should be done there, so that your requirement of energy gets reduced. Similarly, let us look at cars, and we ourselves, we have witnessed that development. Earlier cars used to give you average of 10 to 12, and today it is all 20 plus and moving towards electric. So, therefore, all those efficiencies we are witnessing today. So, those will come. The other is that TERI also has a charter for industries, and there are already for going net zero, and we already have 90 members. So, we discuss the problems, we look into researchable issues, what should be researched and where are the solutions. Solutions will not be found only in India, let us also recognize that. There are solutions available for something else somewhere else in the world. So, therefore, partnering with them becomes important. If we look at the success of solar, it is not China which has invented everything. What Chinese have done, they have reduced the cost. Invention was somewhere else, but how do you scale up? How do you bring other innovations so that it becomes affordable? So, therefore, it becomes important for countries. We need to work with developed part of the world, developing part of the world where the innovations can be done. We need to work as a country also, because here is the need, here is the innovations, how do I bring down the cost and adopt for my industry, right from a industry which runs in the size of this room to somewhere the large setups which perhaps they are much bigger than even the international companies. So, we need to look into all the sectors, whether it is shipping, and let us also be conscious of that it is not just for India. If we want to survive, if we have to survive, we have to look at what are the international regulations, whether it is CBAM, so if we have to export, again we have to ensure that that is prepared in the best possible way. So, again to survive in international market, we need to have best of the technologies used by ourselves.
And that you spoke about material use, and you spoke about Griha also, and brought us to that industry. Anupam, it is now it kind of comes to you very nicely about how are you balancing economic growth with aggressive environmental targets in a resource intensive sector like cement. I think it will really bind well with what Vibha ji was saying should be done and what you are actually trying to do on the ground.
So, as Dr. Dhawan and Dr. Ashish has highlighted, so this is an era of partnerships. So, basically whether it is circular economy, whether it is renewable energy, so as long as there are sustainable partnerships of mutual benefits are being created, we are also finding out that those partnerships are also helping on sustainability, on decarbonization, on resource conservation, and whether it is national as well as international. I mean, there might be international partnerships, particularly on the knowledge side. There might be domestic partnerships also. As far as the point which you have mentioned regarding the waste, so their partnerships are playing a very important role, and we are observing it in the cement industry, where a lot of waste. So, in fact, we call cement sector as national waste scavenger, because we have been able to utilize lot of waste from local municipalities, from various other places, which is directly used in the cement kiln as a energy fuel, and it helps in reduction of the fossil fuels like pet coke or coal or similar fossil origin fuels. Similarly, in our electric fleet, we have also used biodiesel, which actually reduces the use of fossil based diesel, and in this process it helps us to improve our profitability as well. So, when I save 1 ton of limestone through various resource conservation measures, it also helps in increasing the profitability as well. The only thing is how we, as you have mentioned, the mindset challenge, how we connect it to the last person in the entire process, that it is understood well. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is only a target which is primarily derived on sustainability, it may lose during the process of building it from top to the bottom or from bottom to the top. So, therefore, to address this mindset challenge, the first thing was you create a kind of a philosophy which is well addressed on profitability side also and sustainability side also, and this is how this genesis of clean and green is profitable and sustainable happened. And from very old times we have seen it in TERI also, where it was clean and green is profitable, and then we added sustainable also there. So, clean and green is profitable and sustainable, and it helped us shape all our projects in such a way that co-development approach is taken into, co-benefit approach is taken into account. So, then there was one point related to research what you have highlighted. So, in research also on nascent levers we have worked on that also. So, now carbon capture and utilization for the cement sector particularly, it is one of the very important technology, and there also recently now Department of Science and Technology has come forward, and they are saying and that now they have awarded 5 technology pilots to the cement sector. So, there also we are exploring early on that how this process can become beneficial. It is not just a cost, as of now it looks like a cost, but then it is not just a cost, how it becomes beneficial for the sector in terms of implementation, that sustainability, basically decarbonization is also served, and at the same time some profitability or something is also happening. So, there one of the aspect that we identified is going for carbon capture and utilization, not going for carbon capture and storage, because the idea is when we go for carbon capture and utilization, we automatically bring some more efficiency into the whole system, because when it is carbon capture and storage, then basically you are storing the CO2 and there is no economic value being generated out of it. But if you are thinking of carbon capture and utilization, then there can be some innovative product which can be manufactured. That innovative product can be utilized and can probably help in recovering the cost that has been incurred in the whole capture process. So, this is the kind of example I am giving, this example that how this thinking process evolves, and then how in this process basically we create a system where economic benefit is also ensured and sustainability is also ensured. I will give you another example. So, long back 10 years back we took our first target that we will become water positive. That was a target that by 2017 we will become water positive. So, we started taking lot of action in that direction. Within our fence, outside our fence, we created water harvesting bodies, we engaged with farmers also, and there also through our CSR, Dalmia Bharat Foundation, we created a lot of structures and water efficiency systems, particularly drip irrigation, water conservation measures, that those were also taken. Now, it not only helped us because it ensured plant running days by having availability of water, and at the same time for farmers it ensures if suppose somebody was taking only 2 crops, he was able to take 3 crops or 4 crops because additional availability of water. So, it is not just my economic benefit, it is economic benefit of the society also. So, I think from that perspective that thought process has to evolve, and we have been working in that direction, and many other industries are also working in the similar direction, so that we create economic benefit and at the same time we create societal benefit and sustainability benefit as well.
That was very comprehensive, and thank you very much for bringing that to that point, because I am asking a related question to Ashish. Ashish, see, in terms of climate, we have international climate diplomacy, we have domestic targets, we also have subnational local action. How do you see UNDP placed as an organization? Because you are connected to the global diplomacy, you are also working very closely with national government, but also have a lot of project implementation that is being supported and developed at a local level. How do you think as UNDP you are building those blocks that are needed at this moment, not only with industries but also at the level of policy, technology, what Vibha ma'am was also saying about crowdfunding? I'm just kind of bringing you to all these things because you also spoke about interconnectedness. So, what do you think UNDP is up to bring all these things together?
I guess the necessity for interconnectedness is obvious, right? So, the fact that given the scale of the challenge, no one organization, no one institution, no one actor is going to be able to solve the problem at scale. And I think that's where there are several strands of our work which kind of develop or focus on developing platforms.
Right.
So for instance, I'll give you a couple of examples. The first example is we implement a project called Utthan. This is working with waste pickers all over the country. It's on social protection, enhancing social protection. So what we did was we said, okay, we could go and work in one city with a set of, a small group of waste pickers and learn. But then that is not our ambition. Our ambition is not to keep learning from one small pilot to another one to the third one. So what we did was we created this platform called Utthan. Utthan basically encourages different actors in the ecosystem to engage with each other on solving the problems that waste pickers might face in trying to solve the problem of plastic waste, electronic waste, any kinds of waste, right? And this is what became attractive to a lot of partners. So we work very closely with several ministries. So we did an event where 3 line ministries came and said this is actually aligned with their priorities. I've already mentioned them. We worked, there are several private sector players who came in. So some of the largest companies in this country, Hindustan Unilever, Coca-Cola, HDFC, a bunch of others engaged with this entire process of working, strengthening the profile and the social protection of waste pickers. How can they continue to remain relevant but also not be marginalized and vulnerable as they are otherwise? We're also now working with several state governments and cities to actually, so we've brought all of this platform allows you to bring multiple actors together. The second example is that of the Resource Efficiency and Circular Economy Industry Coalition. So the Government of India launched this as a part of its G20 presidency. FICCI hosts the Secretariat, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and we signed an MOU with FICCI to strengthen the RECEIC's national and global footprint. The idea that there are several members of the RECEIC already who are working on their individual projects. How do you collectivize all of this great insight which is coming to solve the problem at scale? There are companies, individual companies doing this. You have experience, Divya, of doing this through multiple initiatives of the climate group as well. So I think the RECEIC is another such platform which allows for interconnectedness, learning, but also linking the global to the international, because this was launched at the G20 presidency. Just very recently, what we've tried to do is to look at extended producer responsibility, but then bring the social element into it. How do you indigenize extended producer responsibility? And that meant that you look at the aspects of human rights of waste pickers. You look at the economic rights, you look at the environmental rights, and therefore all of this needs to get interconnected. So we did a lot of convening as UNDP. We also bring these different kinds of actors together on these platforms so that we can learn from each other's experiences, but also scale, bring scale to this sort of entire narrative. And my final example is the work that we do on state action plans on climate change. A long-term partnership with several states. And of course, we are working very closely with the Government of India, the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change on the National Action Plan. So how do you link the National Action Plan on Climate Change to the State Action Plan on Climate Change, but then also mobilize resources for community programs? So in Odisha, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh, we implement a $110 million Green Climate Fund project on mangroves. Today is World Nature Conservation Day. Just very recently we had the Mangrove Day as well. The idea that how do you bring these different sort of levels of actors together so that we manage the scale question. Government of India has a National Coastal Mission. There's a target of 50,000 hectares of mangroves rejuvenation, and the project that we have jointly with 3 states has a target of 10,000 hectares. So 20% of the national target could potentially be met through activities of these projects as well. So this interconnectedness at the national level, at the state level, and down to the community level allows us to traverse the challenges at all levels, but also the solutions at all levels.
Thank you so much, Ashish. We have about 8 minutes with ourselves. There are some closing remarks that I really want all of you to speak about. I'll give you 1 minute for that. But before that, I really want you, there are one set of questions that I have, I really want to ask you. So maybe 2 minutes each for those, and then we will give you 1 minute for the rapid question, the question will be rapid, but the answers will have to be rapid as well. Vibha ji, Ashish just spoke about interconnectedness, about partnerships at various levels. TERI has a great experience of, looking at the industry, academia, government nexus. And I'm calling it a nexus because you've been able to build those partnerships over the years. Can you tell us more about how they have been successful? You just talk about the Energy Institute that has been set up, the Center of Excellence, number of departments within TERI have been the Center of Excellence. Absolutely. With some of the ministries, with Ministry of Urban Development at some point of time as well. Please tell us a little bit more about it.
In fact, when Ashish was talking about the climate action plans and so on, see what is happening today, we have regional models available for climate, but then they are not really available at the city level or state level and so on. We also have to look into that which state faces what kind of problem. Like if I take, because TERI has also set up Institute on Himalayan Studies in Northeast. And the whole objective is, if we look at northeastern part, that is on the trajectory of very fast growth, Assam 2.0. Now, what is going to happen? We don't want those states, and already Barnihart is labeled as one of the most polluted city. Air pollution levels are very high. So you really have to work over there. Now, how do we work out? And that is where the academia becomes extremely important. They have to find the answers. It's very easy to say we have this problem, but what can we do? No, we have to do it. This is a problem that needs to find solution. Now, what is happening, unfortunately, till very recently, industry was looking at the fruits which are already ripe. They were looking at TRL 8-9 levels. What is now required, and we are very happy because now industry is coming forward. And I'll cite one example which TERI had done. We had DBT TERI Center of Excellence on biofuels and biocommodities. We all know one of the problems with biofuels is the high cost of production. But what we are missing is that lipid is not the only thing that will come from the bioresource. The entire biofuel program in US is successful not because of lipid coming from corn, it is because of the chicken feed which comes out of it. So here also in this particular project, we looked at alga as the bioresource, the marine strain of alga. So water is not a constraint, you have enough seawater. You can grow it along the coast, and coastal communities are the ones which are comparatively poor compared to average Indian. You can grow it along the coast, then you extract lipid from algae. The entire metabolic engineering was fast growth, so that you are fixing more of carbon dioxide. Yeah. Having done that, lipid, which is just 18%, unlike most other organizations which are concentrating on 40% plus, but your doubling time is a day. So it's very fast production of alga, more of CO2 sequestration. Then you are left with the algal mass, de-oiled algal cake. You feed it to the kettle, immediately the milk production goes up. The fat content goes up, the immune system of the animal is improved because you are giving something comparable to green fodder. That becomes your second product. Third is many of the nutraceuticals that come from various algal strains depending on which strain you are growing. Fourth is the entire thing becomes platform chemical, and we are very happy to report some of those chemicals which were at TRL 2 and 3, Tata Chemicals had come forward and they have invested that take it to the pilot scale. Give us the technology when it is at TRL 7 or 8, then we will see whether to commercialize or not. So therefore, it's an effort where you are combining academics, and I'll give you one more example where we are very successful, and I'm talking of international partnership over here. TERI has established TERI Deakin Nanobiotechnology Center. Nanobiotechnology is comparatively a new science. We gained experience, we came out with nano fertilizer. Now, let's look at, we require so much of energy for the production of any fertilizer. Urea is 90% subsidized by the government. If you produce nano urea, your requirement gets reduced to 10%. You are transporting fertilizer to every corner of the country because it's going to the farmer. So, huge cost of transportation and huge, therefore, lots of GHG emissions. And then what happens? Let's look at the technology. It's going, you are spraying it on the expanded leaves, 100% absorption by the plant. Nothing goes to the soil because otherwise you are talking of nitrous oxide production, which is far, it's worse than carbon dioxide. You are talking of your aquifers getting polluted because of nitrogen. You are overcoming these two. GHG emissions at all levels are getting reduced. So, a technology which in a way we develop to reduce burden on urea subsidy is helping all through. Now, what is there for the farmer? And in fact, when you are talking about mangroves, one thing which came to my mind immediately is, let's talk of carbon credits. Those communities, the moment they start getting carbon credits, they will start taking care of the plants as well. And so, it's win-win. They will earn more and your plants will take care of carbon dioxide. And that is where we are talking about planting large number of trees in Northeast, because Himalayas is not Himalayas alone. It's an ecosystem which takes care of the world. And loss of biodiversity over there is not losing a species or reducing population of a particular species. It is actually the entire nature which is a huge store of money, finances. So, we should talk of nature as economics. So, that is what one is trying to achieve there as well, because that is how one will be able to take care of glaciers, and glaciers in turn will give you water, which is lifeline for each one of us, and we can't afford to lose them.
Thank you, Vibhaji. I think we've got into our rapid fire round, and I'll start with Anupam. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about circular economy, so please weave in that conversation if you want to. But my one last question to all of you is, what is that one bold action every company must take now to become truly climate resilient by 2030?
There are a lot of actions being taken by the companies, but I think the biggest one is to address the mindset challenge. As long as we are able to address the mindset challenge, I think we would be able to take action in all directions, and I will give you one example here. Today is World Nature Conservation Day. So, on World Nature Conservation Day, generally we believe that it is about conservation of the nature, but we forget that we are also part of the nature. So, when we are saying conserve the nature, then that means conserving ourselves as well. So, I think this kind of understanding is to be developed across all platforms within the industries, and as long as we are able to tackle this mindset challenge, there are a lot of other things we would be able to tackle, whether it is renewable energy, whether it is circular economy, whether it is some other aspects.
No, I think a critical sort of bold action would be to be completely transparent. It's a big ask, but I think it's about sort of what is your nature footprint,
Yes.
what is your climate footprint, what is your environmental footprint. I think if companies can honestly disclose and then ask for support,
Yes.
sort of be bold in sort of disclosing sort of what the challenges are, be transparent in disclosing what the sort of issues are. I think that would be a big step forward. The Paris Agreement has an enhanced transparency framework. All countries are supposed to disclose their information in much more transparent ways. If the private sector can actually support in that kind of a disclosure, I think that's very, very important. And it's actually going to go very far in gaining people's trust in environmental action by government, but also by the private sector. And I think I want to relate this to this entire movement on Mission Life, which the Prime Minister has launched, the Lifestyle for Environment. mission which was launched by the Prime Minister in 2022. And UNDP has a very strong partnership on implementing that mission jointly with the Government of India. And I think it's very critical to understand that mission lifestyle for environment is about, of course, individual sustainable lifestyles, but it's also about sustainable consumption and production, about how industry moves forward in solving these problems. So I think we need more bold transparency action, but we also need sort of partnerships through mission life with the rest of the
Thank you
country.
for bringing that up. Assuming accountability is very, very important. Vibha ji, one last word very quickly, 30 seconds.
Environmental accountability is as important as financial accountability. That's what companies should realize, and it's not, time won't come give back to the society. They have to take care of the society today.
Thank you so much for ending it with that very important note. I would not try to summarize this because there have been so much deep, in-depth conversation that we've had. It will be very difficult for me to summarize in 30 seconds. But thank you so much to all the panelists. It was extremely wonderful to meet you today and also have this conversation with you. I have learned a lot and leave this room with a lot of rigor and, you know, intent for myself and my work. And thank you all the audience for being with us today. This particular series will continue and we will meet you again on 22nd August with another webinar on climate action. So please join us there. I hope you found it useful, like we have found it useful to be here with you. Thank you so much.